There's a difference between freedom of expression, freedom of speech, and a hate crime. And just because something is legal doesn't mean that it should be condoned or supported with your police. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. So the breaking news that's going around social media right now is about this latest Quran burning. This far-right extremist, whose name I won't mention, has publicly burned another copy of the Quran in front of the Turkish embassy in Sweden. And get this, with the permission of the Swedish government and with the protection of the Swedish police. What are they thinking? And this guy that committed the Quran burning, this guy's known for this type of behavior. He's a convicted racist, a prominent Islamophobe, and all-round right-wing. And this is just the latest in a line of Islamophobic behavior from him. Last year in Ramadan, he committed to a Quran burning tour that was also accompanied by the Swedish police. In other words, he's a bigot and a joke. But what I find interesting about the situation is not the fact that the man committed this hateful crime, but that the Swedish government not only permitted this to happen, but also that they gave him police protection while it happened. They were repeatedly warned by the Turkish government that this was a hateful crime, a provocative act. Of course it is. Anyone with half a brain cell would know that. But Sweden, the Swedish government, in their infinite wisdom, decided to let this happen and to give him police protection while it happened. All of this during a time when they're trying to convince Turkey to let them join NATO, when Turkey is pretty much the only country standing in their way, and they decide to provoke them like this. Make it make sense. Now in response, we have protests happening in Istanbul, Turkey, in front of the Swedish consulate by Turkish Muslims protesting against the Swedish government's actions, against the far right-wing person's actions, and to show support for Islam and the Quran. And we've also had various denouncements of the act from governments of UAE, Saudi Arabia, Morocco, Egypt, and various other governments and organizations. I'm still confused on why the Swedish government let it happen. Of course Turkey was not going to like that. Imagine if a Turkish Muslim went up to the Swedish Forget that. Imagine if a Turkish Muslim went up to the Polish embassy and decided to burn a copy of the Bible, or he went up to the Israeli embassy and decided to burn a copy of the Torah. Of course, no one would hesitate in calling him stupid. No one would hesitate in calling that a hate crime, a provocative act. I would hope that the Turkish government would have the sense of mind not to give permission for their own citizens to burn those copies. So why have the Swedish government done so, and why are they now trying to hide behind this freedom of expression defense that they've got? There's a difference between freedom of expression, freedom of speech, and a hate crime. And just because something is legal doesn't mean that it should be condoned or supported with your police. Tobias Billström, the Swedish foreign minister, tweeted out earlier saying that it was a heinous act and that Sweden and the Swedish government doesn't necessarily condone the actions of the man that burned the Quran. Well, why did you give permission then? Why did you give him police? It doesn't make any sense. This latest Quran burning follows a string of recent Quran burnings in Europe. It follows a recent wave of anti-Muslim hatred and Islamophobia across Europe. Most prominently since last year in countries like Sweden, Norway, Netherlands, France. It's worrying. It's worrying that it's become more accepted, more normalized. We as Muslims, we have a responsibility to stand up for ourselves, to make sure that we're not going to be rolled over, to stand up to this bigotry and hatred when we see it, to challenge Islamophobia, but not to fall to their level, but instead to rise above it and to remain strong and focused in our faith and in our devotion to Allah. Anyway, that's all I have to say on the matter. Please stay safe, stay focused on Allah, and take care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum.